Hey guys, King Cheerio 85 here with part 1 of Link's Awakening Remake. So we're finally getting into this. I've already played through the whole game. There's a couple things I still got to go back and get for completion. But I've gone through the whole storyline, gotten all the heart pieces, and beaten the boss. Now here we have the beautiful new intro. A very faithful recreation of the opening cinematic for the Game Boy Color game. And like, feel free to debate me on this, but I actually really do enjoy this, and then the juxtaposition to the style that is for the Koholint Island, the whole change in art styles here. It emphasizes the divide between Link's waking state and the dream that he's now inhabiting. Now, if you are like if you're a brand new player to this, I feel it doesn't really give away that the fact that the whole game exists within inside the dream of the Windfish. That all these people that you meet, they're all part of this dream world that exists because the Windfish is asleep. I don't really feel that it really gives that away. And yeah, I had to maintain consistency with my previous save file. Just go fart all the way around. But I don't know. I keep hearing from most, most people that I actually talk to about this game that one thing that they hate about it is just the overall art style of it. And I just don't really get that logic, because here we are in a post Wind Waker. Yeah, and I apologize. I got this air purifier going off right next to me, and you probably hear that on the audio. There's not really much I can do about that. I just picked poor timing to record this, and yeah, that's about it. Here, I got my shield. Now, as far as this whole game goes, I feel like they did pretty much everything right that they could do for a remake. Grezzo really knocked this one out of the park. I know it's not going to happen, but I wish that we could get remakes of the two Oracle games as well. But these guys, they improved what really needed to be improved, and on top of that, they kept a lot of things the same that shouldn't have been messed with. There's a few things later on that I feel like, yeah, they probably shouldn't have tweaked that or should have. So it's very, very close to being a perfect remake of this game. Coming from playing the Game Boy, not the Game Boy Color enhanced port versus this full-on remake, kind of lets me be able to take a look at some of these things and from a bit more of a critical perspective, I guess. I don't really consider myself a game critic. I'm not really doing reviews. I've had one review that since I started the channel that I still haven't posted, just because I'm just not that confident in it. Something I would actually like to do, but like I said, I'm just not super confident in my objective ability to actually give full-on reviews of some of these things. But I mean, at the same time, reviews are mostly subjective anyway. Because it's just all based upon what you like. I probably like a lot of things that a lot of people don't, and I know I hate a lot of things that a lot of people like. So that's just me. There's a lot of games out there that people call the greatest of all time that I just don't like. I don't enjoy them, which is okay. Everybody's free to have their own tastes. And I kept a lot of this footage of some of the stuff of me wandering around here, just because this whole world that they've completely rebuilt is just, it's immaculate. It looks beautiful. Everything works. This does right what I have seen a lot of games that go from the original pixel art to a full 3D aesthetic just do straight wrong. Which, I mean, that's a whole thing right there, which I'm not even going to get into. But I guess you could say, like, my best example of that would have to be the Secret of Mana remake, the one that came out on PlayStation 4, which was really just a PSP game that they ported to PS4. That one, like, it wasn't a bad game, but it made no real strides forward. And I just felt like the 3D models, they were not enough of an improvement over the pixel art to really, for me, warrant it to be there. I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't want to get into all of that too much because I mean, I'm not EPG. I'm not gonna go through remake or rebreak with that kind of thing. That's not at all something that I do, or I'm even really interested in doing. But as far as this one goes, like, if I did review it, I'd have to give it like one of my highest scores of all time, just because it is such a well done remake, and it preserves the core experience and improves upon the mechanics, the visuals, and it doesn't do it. It doesn't try to like add in a whole bunch of features that take away from the original story mode or the core gameplay loop. You have optional things that you can do, like you can come back here. That's one of the last things I need to do is come back to the game corner and get the last Nintendo figurine, because I mean I just beat the game and then started editing. That's about it. I'm missing one of the Nintendo figurines, and there's a few things I still want to do with the chamber dungeon mode. I was thinking that I could add in do chamber dungeons on a game night here. Just have one that I made myself, and have one of the guys have to go through it. I feel like that'd be pretty interesting. This thing usually always has like one of those shields here. Thankfully, I did not throughout my entire playthrough have any of my shields get devoured. That would have sucked. I appreciate them using the modern Zelda shield. Well, the modern, like, Hylian style shield that you see in a lot of the current games. Not that I disliked any of the classic shields. I just really like that design. It's one of those things that well, you can kind of take for granted. It's not necessary. They really could have gone with something a bit more basic or something a bit more akin to the design art for the Link's Awakening game. Would have been really basic, but I mean, that's something they could have done. And there's something I remembered to do that I completely forgot to do in my original playthrough, which was show me getting that ribbon. Yeah. And now I get to investigate the mysterious forest. Now, these videos are probably going to run a little bit longer than the previous Link's Awakening videos, because I'm not gonna speed through a lot of the stuff, because, like I said, a lot of the things that they did for that really improve upon the experience is mapping specific items to buttons. Period. You still have 2 buttons that you can use to change out items, but your sword is not something that you can unequip and re-equip. Your shield is always going to be mapped to R. You can't unequip it or re-equip it. The power bracelet is always going to be on A. You're always going to be able to use it by pressing A in front of something that's compatible with it. And the Pegasus boots, you're always going to wear them. These are a lot of things that really do make sense, because aside from the sword and shield, really, I mean, technically, I guess the shield, maybe, I don't know. Not something I really would think about too much, but a lot of it does make sense, though. Obviously, when Link gets the power bracelet, he's not just going to keep taking it on and taking it off and putting it back on over and over again. When he gets the new boots, he's not going to, change those out either. I mean, unless it's Ocarina of Time and you've got 3 different styles of boots for different styles of puzzles. Yeah, enemy movement, it's a lot more dynamic than most 3D remakes that I see for a lot of these games. Like the model animation is good overall. I mean, overall, I feel like Grezzo really knocked it out of the park. There's only a few things that I could really be super critical about this game with. And if I was going to be a major dick about it, then I would be criticizing it for things that the game was never intended to be, which you're going to find a lot of people doing that. That's something that you always have to take into consideration if you are going to criticize a game for something, is like, okay, so what was this intended to be? Who is the intended audience? Obviously, if you're going to be angry at a racing game for not including on-foot sections, then you're probably don't really have any business critiquing that game to begin with, because you're not critiquing it for what it was intended to be, or even who the audience was intended, the audience it was intended for. Another thing that I feel like is a massive improvement. I don't know why I exited out of here and then came back in. I could have just literally just walked around. It made no sense. You're gonna find, if you're not familiar with how I do these videos, you're gonna find me just kind of rambling a lot. A lot of time to fill. I don't really script anything, so there's that. Yeah, gotta come back there with a power bracelet. That'll be in the next one, I think. Or at the beginning of it, or at the end of this one. I don't remember. I don't remember how I edited these things. I tried to only cut out the stuff that I felt was completely unnecessary to the playthrough. I mean, in the beginning, I left a lot more stuff in, and as I go through, these areas are a lot more played through. I do end up cutting a lot less out. Or cutting a lot more out, depending on what it is and where it was from. And overall, I definitely recommend this game. If you're a Zelda fan, you're not going to be disappointed with this one. If you love the original one, there's nothing really to be disappointed either. The only people that I've seen be disappointed with it are the ones that just don't like the art style. Which, I mean, again, I don't really see any point in that. And I had one person argue that this was already a kind of the Link's Awakening was already a cartoony game, and it didn't really need to be more cartoony. Why does it matter? Overall, I still think it looks, more fleshed out than a lot of the other games that come out. Like, there's a lot of effort put into this. You can definitely see that the guys working on this had a love for the original property, and just all they really wanted to do was do a lot of quality of life improvements on it, which to me, that's what your primary focus should be for a remake, is any quality of life improvements you can make on it that don't detract from the original experience. The number one downfall with the Game Boy Zelda games was menu navigation. You spent so much time flipping in and out of the menus because a lot of the puzzles required you to use multiple different items. Or you had enemies that ran counterintuitive, oh, God damn it, I can't even talk right now. Enemies that ran counterintuitive to the items that you needed for the puzzle within the same room. There were a lot of enemies that you simply couldn't kill with the items that you needed to solve the puzzles in the room. So you usually end up having to go and kill the enemies first and then move on from there. One of the better things about this too is just the simple fact that this was announced early on, so it's not like this is some big revelation I had while playing this game. I already knew about that much. Was that when you open a door or unlock a door, be it through a puzzle or killing enemies or whatever, that door will then always remain unlocked. Like, and the enemies will still respawn if you want to fight them, but you can just go past them. Like, if you beat them once, you can just exit that room again. That was one of the number one annoying things that I had to do when I was doing the Game Boy game. Was I had just continuously refight enemies in the same rooms over and over again because of all the extensive backtracking, especially later on. Later on, there's a ton of backtracking you gotta do. I mean, you're gonna see me in the final area. Just crap, I kicked it. You're gonna see me just in the final area, just running past the Vires all the time. As soon you kill the first one, and that's, I believe, pretty much the only one that you need to kill. You can just skip past all the rest of them. And honestly, that's one of my complaints about this, is that those enemies in this game are way more annoying than they were in the Game Boy one. But, I mean, overall, as far as any of my complaints go, whatever praise I have for this game far exceeds my complaints. Which, if that's the case, if that's what people can say about your game, you did a good job. All right, now we're gonna go through the dungeon. I'm gonna cut, I had to go through, in order to get heart pieces and seashells and such, I did have to go through the chamber dungeon mode for a bit. I'm probably going to cut all of those out simply for time, because that was a lot of excessive amounts of time to have to go through that for effectively, is it 1.5 hearts? 1.5 hearts, a bottle, and seashell. I think he's got 2 seashells though. I don't remember. I don't know. I haven't done his last set of challenges. To my understanding, his last set of challenges really suck. But yeah. Yeah. And you'll notice, you know, not having to navigate the menus makes these playthroughs so much quicker. That is one of the, what I would actually consider a downside to this remake, is just the fact that the playtime has been reduced so much just from not having to navigate the menus so often. Like, the most I ever used the menus was when I was double checking the maps so I could find locations for seashells and heart pieces. And I actually, you know, that's, there's actually more heart pieces and more seashells in this game than there are in the original. In the original, there's 26 seashells total, which, I mean, once you got the 20 you needed for the level 2 sword, the rest would just turn into rupees. Well, I mean, they wouldn't just automatically turn into rupees. Once you got the level 2 sword, then all the rest of the seashells would be turned into rupees. Let's see, where was I heading to now? I don't remember. Yeah, I don't have the leaf yet, so I can't go and get the boss key. And I always forget about that stupid boss key. Yeah, I didn't get the boomerang until much later in this playthrough either. I remember when they did nerf a lot of things, a lot of the weapons. I did notice that. Well, some of the more useful weapons ended up getting nerfed a bit. That kind of sucked. I wasn't too happy about that. They did little tweaks to some of the sub-bosses. For the most part, the actual dungeon bosses are pretty much the same. Like, I mean, I think some of them take some more hits, but aside from that, it's really the sub-bosses where they did a lot of the tweaking. Because, I mean, most of the sub-bosses were kind of chumps. And, I mean, that's still kind of the case here. They're all, a lot of them are still not great. But they did do some tweaking, which I can appreciate. Like, the high nox enemies no longer just stand in one spot of the room and don't bother to attack you unless you've got bombs or something. But now they actually have a charging attack at you and will grab you, pick you up, and throw you, which makes them a little bit more tricky to deal with. Not much, but they'll at least do some damage this time instead of just throwing bombs at you. Yeah, and I'm a little embarrassed to say that it took me a little bit longer to remember that, oh yeah, my shield's always out. Now, overall, this game is technically easier, but it's easier because it's more fair. It's easier because you're not having to consistently pause to change items out all the time. Like, you know, you'd be under attack by something that you need the sword to, but you're just using the magic powder. You need the sword to attack, and but you're using the magic powder and the rock's feather together. So you didn't even have your sword or your shield out. This time you always have your shield, you always have your sword, so you're always able to attack and defend. You're never at a disadvantage as far as that goes. Which, yeah, as I said, very much appreciate that change. Here I am about to go through, about to find the boss room before I remember that, oh yeah, I need to get the key. Yeah, and I think I was trying to stomp on him. Just wanted to see if it would work. It didn't. I was a little disappointed by that. Also, I was getting used to the way the physics for the jumping worked. It's a little trickier than I remember it being. Like, maybe I'm just crazy, but to me it was just a little bit, little different. Felt a lot different than in the original. I don't think I ever went up that room. Oh, yeah, I did. And these guys are way easier to time. Even though for some reason I just didn't do it. Because I think I remember on the Game Boy playthrough, they were just flipping through like one frame at a time. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I got the stone beak now, which is absolutely useless to me right now. Yeah, and this is one of those few dungeons where the sub-boss is actually just straight guarding the boss. This guy's basically right before the boss room. He's not guarding the item that you need. In fact, you need the item in order to kill him. You don't even really need the item to kill the boss, just the sub-boss. Yeah, he's basically guarding the boss room. I do appreciate that they kept the hanging bodies there. I was afraid they were going to try to censor that. Yeah, I don't know why, for some reason, throughout most of this playthrough, I could not time those blades. I just suck. That's basically it. This has got to be the most easy thing that you can do, and it's the one thing that I never do. That is the one thing about having these scrolling areas instead of having the screen by screen. There's a lot of these enemies that have these evasive patterns. Will just evade, evade, evade. They don't have a limit as far as how far back they can go. I don't know why I don't just jump. Yeah, the compass lets me know that there's a secret in this room because the boss key's there. And pretty soon I'll be out of here. I think I was trying to see if those would work on that, but no, those don't. The only thing that actually works on those is the boomerang. And one thing I found out that unlike the Game Boy original, not all of those things will give you a fairy when you hit them with the boomerang. Here we go, Moldorm. Now, if you go back and watch my playthrough of the original dungeon on the Game Boy Color, you'll probably see that I had to cut away a lot due to how many pause screens I was on. And mind you, this is the dungeon that you had the fewest items to go through. So you didn't have a lot of different, a lot of reasons to go through the pause screen menu. Now this is also one of the more annoying boss encounters in this game because he's got that area underneath his boss room. If you fall down any of those holes or, break through any of those bricks and fall down, you'll end up in a different room underneath and then have to go back up and start the boss fight over again. It's very similar to the one from A Link to the Past. Really not that annoying since this boss is like literally a pushover. He literally takes 2 hits to kill when you get the level 2 sword. It's ridiculous. They do not toughen him up at all for the chamber dungeon mode, even though he's got 2 different. All of them have basically 2 different ways that you can select them. You can select them as just basically a chamber, or you can have them actually be the nightmare, the big boss at the end of the chamber dungeon. Or do both. You're not locked in either way. And here comes this guy. Somehow he annoys me a lot less in this than on the Game Boy game. Maybe it's just because the backgrounds are way more interesting. There's a lot more to look around at and appreciate. Like, especially since now I'm not locked in on reading through the text. I really like how everything is, vibrant. It's moving. It's alive. Yep. That's another thing they added, is like some of these trees have apples on them. If you knock those apples down, you can eat them to restore hearts. I'm pretty sure that wasn't in the original. Maybe it could have been and I just wasn't paying attention. But that's still a nice little thing to throw in there. And here comes, this is basically the introduction to the next dungeon. Like it goes straight from one and then leads you right to the next one. Very interesting way. Like, I don't remember any other Zelda game really doing that. In order to be able to get access to the third dungeon, you have to advance the trading minigame up to the point where you have the bananas. Because if you don't have the bananas, by the time you go meet the monkey, you can't progress. And I realize that sounds like gibberish. Now, I understood why they just had him eat the entire can in the Game Boy version. In this one, he could have opened it and just, dropped it in his mouth. Whatever, I guess. This guy he loves what's in the can as much as he loves the can. Why not? Now, this video is going to stop right before I go into this next area and fight off the moblins and rescue the Bow Wow, the Chain Chomp. So, that would be it for now. Hope you guys are having a great night. If you're enjoying what I'm doing, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Share with your friends. And I will see you guys over in the next one. Hope you're having a great night. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, you can check out past videos here, or you can click here to check out my newest upload. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to stay notified on all future videos.